Here we have the 970 G1 Gaming from Gigabyte in our good place to start computer. This is a really great setup. What we have here first is the user bench results that classifies it as a gaming battleship and a desktop battle cruiser. Specifically, the gaming is the area which we are interested in, where it actually with the 970 scored a 85%. Basically, for most of our builds, we normally see this. We see that on average we get higher than the 50th percentile, meaning the match of components we have in our systems tend to perform very well. The specific case we can see here with our good place to start thing, it's in the 79th percentile, with our CPU performing in the 85th percentile. Our 970 here, which the G1 Gaming is performing in the 85th. If you overclock it, you can of course get it higher. Same thing for the hard drives. The hard drives performing really well. The memory is performing really well. But the main important bit here is specifically the graphics card here, which says it is actually doing excellent. And now let's have a look at what the actual performance are when you look at games. Strike score. This is basically 3D Mark's P1080 test. As you can see, the graphics score is quite good. We've received a 9600 for here. The physics score is actually also quite good with this 65 watt 6600 processor. If you would want to get your physics score up, which helps for some of the newer titles, you can look at rather going for something like a 6700K or the 140 watt processors. But overall, this is a very good Firestrike score. If we compare it to the online platform, basically what they're saying is a computer like this would be fine for VR. This is relative. It is the minimum spec for VR, a 970. Because of the match of components, we actually get a little bit above what you'd normally expect with this, but that is what we always aim for. So the 970, it's coming down in price. It's a good option. It still runs, if you're running a P1080, you can still set everything absolutely max. And if you have a look at the other video, you'll see what it does at higher resolutions as well. But yes, now let's go on and have a look what it actually looks like in gaming at P1080. Here we have Dota running everything set to maximum on the 970 at P1440. This is basically known as 2K resolution. As with P1080, it's still locked at 120 frames per second, so it seems like Dota is one of those games where it's really friendly to your graphics cards. This is CounterStrike GO and running at 2K. As you can see, running very nice and smoothly. Just jumping between sort of 180 frames per second and 200 frames per second. There we're dropping down to 141. But seems to be staying smooth. Back up at about 180. And there we're at about 210. So this at G1 P1440 970 seems more than capable of running 144 Hz for Go. This seems to be staying well in comfortable frame rates. Here we have Civilizations and 5 at 2K. It seems to be running nice and smoothly. We are getting those 130 frames per second. When these notifications and that pop up, we drop down to about 113, but it seems to be nice and smooth and no issues whatsoever on this this platform. Seem to be sitting at around the 130 frames per second, which for a strategy game, anything over 30 frames is fine, so it's really an overkill for this game specifically. Here we have Call of Duty 5 World at Wars, Nazi Zombies. We're running it at 2K here. We're in the 970. We're actually seeing very good frame rates. It almost seems more comfortable with this than it did at P1440. We're at 91 frames per second, and seems to be staying very constant there. Oh, that's great. Here we have Skyrim running at 2K with everything set to ultra. As you can see, it seems to be running perfectly smoothly. We're not getting any kind of a dip below 60 frames per second. There's quite a detailed environment where we're looking at here. See if we jump off into the water. Well, it seems to still be very happy at 60 frames per second. Excellent. Here we have Borderlands, the pre-sequel, running at 2K. As seen here, we seem to be still fairly good. We're still sitting just above 100 frames per second. Let's go see if we go fight what happens to that frame rate here. We're immediately down to about 90, 85. So we still seem to be perfectly okay at the moment. Back up to about 100. But we are starting to give the graphics card a bit of a stress, but we're staying nicely within playable frame rates, staying well over 60, maybe a little bit lower if you were looking to run a little low for the 144 Hz refresh rate at 2K, but just over normal 2K you're more than fine as it is. Here we have Project Cars running at 2K. See, the resolution does take a bit of a toll on the 970 here. Got everything set basically to maximum though, so it is a bit of a challenge for the 970. We're running at about 80 frames per second to 90 frames per second. Really do want to have the steering wheel plugged in for this game. It's not very keyboard friendly. With lots of scenery there, we're still sitting at about 80 frames per second. So it runs it nice and smoothly. Here we have Battlefield 4 running at 2K, just in the testing range. Basically seeing sort of mid 70 frames per second, which is quite nice. There we drop down to about 65. Let's go find us some vegetation. Battlefield's vegetation tends to be hard on the graphics card. Okay, we're dropping down to about 60, 58, 63, but still staying nicely around the 60 frames per second. Excellent. The lowest I saw there was about 58 frames per second, which is really not bad. Even with the particle physics there, we stayed 80 to 70 frames per second, so that looks very nice for the 970 at 2K. Here we have Fractured Space running at 2K. It's running nice and smoothly. We're looking at about 78 frames per second, and under fire drops down to about 70. So the 970 seems to be doing fine at 2K with Fractured Space, which is always nice. And the lowest we saw there was about 69 frames. That's excellent.